Okay, hope everyone's doing well. Simple question. Do you want to play more? Do you feel like you're not playing as much as you should be, as much as your talent warrants? Do you feel like you're better than someone else in your team? You're a shortstop, starting shortstop that is playing over you. You feel you're better than them, but coach won't put you in the game. Won't put you at shortstop, won't put you at second, won't put you at third. You're not getting the playing time that you feel like you should be getting. What do you do? Today are some tips for players that feel this way, because I know from experience, just this year I've heard from, I was going to say hundreds of players, not hundreds of players, but I've heard from dozens of players, right, that are in some way unhappy with how much they're playing, where they're playing, right? I coach high school. I've heard it from a lot of our own players. I run a travel ball program with over 200 players in it. I've heard it from a lot of those players, right? So this is very common. I'm sure a lot of you watching this feel the same way. And so what do you do? What do you do when you feel like you should be playing more, but clearly the coach doesn't, because if the coach felt that way, they would be playing you more? Let's get into it right now. Now, the first thing I'll say is this is probably geared a little bit more towards the high school and college player, although I guess you can really look at this at almost any level, but it really does depend on the level of play, right? And it also depends a little bit on the philosophy of the organization. So if you're a younger player, sometimes, right, you have to understand what the philosophy is. Like, let's start there, right? And it's important if you're a coach or if you run a program that you are very transparent and open and you communicate to everyone what the philosophy is. Is the philosophy that the best players are going to play all the time? Is the philosophy that it's more of a developmental thing where everyone's going to play the same amount of time? How is it broken up, right? And so that's probably the first thing to really understand, because maybe it's more of a developmental thing, and so you want to play every inning because you're the best player, but in your program, the coach says, well, we're not going to play the same player every single inning at shortstop because we want to develop more than just you, and so you've got to move around a little bit. Maybe you even have to sit on the bench a little bit. So it's important to understand that. If the coach has not expressed that to you, if he has not communicated that to you, him or her, then have a conversation with your coach and make sure that you're on the same page, okay? Typically, as you get older in levels and you go to, let's say, high school, and almost definitely in high school, especially at the varsity level, and then most definitely in college, it almost always is the starting lineup is who the coach feels is going to give the team the best opportunity to win that game, right, that day, okay? Freshman level high school, JV level high school, that might be different. That might be more developmental. But most of the high school programs I've been around when it comes to varsity, and then no doubt about it, when it comes to college, it's goal number one on game day is winning, right? And so, again, making sure that you understand the coach's philosophy, understand what level you're at, understand what the bigger picture is. That will help. And again, if you don't, communicate with your coach. Okay, so you probably already understand kind of the first thing, and I've mentioned it already a few times, is communication is key. And so a couple things. One, it's huge for the player to be able to do this, okay? So when we're talking about older levels of play, and we're talking about high school, we're talking about college, it's really, really important for the player. And I would even say even a little bit younger than high school, if it's travel ball and a little bit younger. I do think it's important to get the player to do the talking. Now, maybe if we're talking at a little bit younger level, right? Like, so I coach an 11U team. We have 11, 12, 13, we have all ages. But maybe at the younger levels, the player can initiate it, but the parent can be there for the conversation. I think once you get to high school, and definitely when you're at college, the player needs to initiate the conversation. And it should be between player and coach, right? I think that is a important one for the player, for their age and for their development, just not in baseball, but in life, right? Because they're going to have to deal with these situations and have conversations with adults for the rest of their lives. And so I think it's important. Step number one, if you're a player watching this, know that you have to be able to have conversations with your coach. And it might be uncomfortable, right? And it's not always the easiest thing. Some players it's very easy for them to have a conversation with their coach. And some players hate to communicate. They don't like talking, right? Maybe you're very shy, you feel uncomfortable in this situation. You have to be able to learn to step outside your comfort zone and learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's part of being a high school baseball player, a college baseball player, and an adult. And so that would be my first thing. Right? What I see happen too often is the parents want to try to have the conversation when they're not there, right? It's the player's career. The player is there every day. The player is interacting with coach. The player is hearing the feedback from coach. The player is at the practices and the games, and the player is always there. And ultimately, it's the player that's playing. So as a parent, again, I would step back and I would let the player handle it, okay? So if you are a player, it can be very simple. And again, it does depend on your coach a little bit. Some coaches are like, don't come talk to me about anything, okay? If that's the case, well, then you have to figure that out. Maybe you go talk to them and see if they're very close off to it. I think most coaches would be open to having a conversation. I know that at the beginning of the year, I tell our players, anything you want to talk to me about, come talk to me about it, right? And I say, I will be extremely honest and transparent with you. That's one of the biggest things at the beginning of the year I've said. And so anytime a player has come to me and said, why am I not playing? I tell them exactly why they're not playing. Now, not every player is happy with that. Not every player agrees with that. Totally understand. But all I can be is honest in my evaluation, right? This is the way I see it. And I've been put in this position where I'm the head coach, and so I have to make these decisions. Now, I have assistant coaches that help me with all those decisions. But in the end, the head coach has to make the final decision, right? There's plenty of times where we have discussions, and so a lot of times we're all on the same page, and sometimes we're not on the same page. And so everyone puts their thoughts out there, and we talk it out, and then again, ultimately, I or the head coach has to make a decision, right? And so the player doesn't have to like the decision, doesn't have to even think that the coach is 100% accurate in their assessment, but they have to also understand and be respectful and realize that it is the coach, and that's part of the coach's responsibility, is to pick the lineup that they feel will give the team the best chance to win. And if the player doesn't like that, well, then it's the player's job to go out and improve on whatever it is the coach told them they need improvement on. So have the conversation and figure out what it is you need to do to get into the lineup, to be a better player, right? And the coach should, again, be very, very honest with you. And so I've had that conversation hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times during my coaching career, right? And some players take what you say and go to work on it right away. And some players take what you say and they get angry and they say, coach doesn't like me, right? He doesn't like me because, he didn't like my brother who played for him a few years ago, or he doesn't like me because, I play for this other team and he probably doesn't like that team because he's with another team, or he doesn't like me because I transferred in from a school that he doesn't like, or right? And listen, I can't speak for every coach out there. But for me personally, I put all of that stuff. All that stuff to me is just noise, right? And I think most coaches are like this. When it comes down to it, bottom line, a coach on game day is trying to win the game. 99.9% of coaches, they're trying to win the game, right? That's why they keep a score, because you're trying to win, okay? And so a coach is going to put the lineup out there. They should, that is going to give the team the best chance to win. All right, and it doesn't matter. Nothing else really matters. Now, other certain special circumstances, right? Maybe you have a senior day in high school. I know in the past for high schools that I've coached at, senior day, the seniors play. They get a start, right? And so there could be special circumstances like that. But most of the time, when it's just a regular old game, the job of the coach is to put the team in the best position to win. All right. So have a conversation with coach. Figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, why you're not playing, and then get to work on those strengths and weaknesses. Now, again, in my experience, what happens sometimes is players or parents, or both, will say, well, you haven't given my son, or you haven't given me a shot, right? And I've heard this a lot. You haven't given me a chance. How am I supposed to show you what I can do if you don't give me a chance, if you haven't put me in a game? Put me in a game and I'll show you what I can do, coach. Right? I've heard this, again, hundreds and hundreds of times. Well, here's the thing. Most seasons are short, right? And so the majority of a season, typically at the high school level and especially at the college level, is practice, right? So for instance, in our high school, we play 20 games in a season, but we have tons of practices, right? We have 60 practices maybe, right? We have way more practices than we have games. And so when a player says to me, well, you haven't given me a shot, you haven't given me a chance to show what I can do, and I say, yes, I have. I've watched you every single day in practice, right? For me, practice is where players are competing. And again, I explain this to the players early in the year. I say practice is where you compete to get a spot on game day, right? So in practice, You have to practice with everything you have. You have to look at practice as competition, right? This is a tryout. This is a tryout to play in our next game. So in practice, you are an absolute crazy competitor trying to beat out everybody on the team to start. And then when game day comes and the lineup is posted, if you're in the lineup, right, then first you have to understand your role. So if you're in the lineup, then you know your role. You're a starting player for that day. If you're not in the lineup, you have to understand your role. Your role that day might be to be the absolute best pinch runner you can be. It might be to be the absolute best at warming up pitchers in the bullpen. It might be being the absolute best teammate and cheering your teammates on as hard as you possibly can. It might be chasing foul balls, right? And then for everyone, it's being prepared to play, because you never know what's going to happen in the game. And so that's the way I explain it to our team. You have to be a competitor in practice as hard as you possibly compete to win the job, and then you have to accept your role on game day, and you have to be the best teammate possible and do the best job you can at the role that you're asked, that you're given, right? And so coaches are every practice, I'm watching every little single thing that every player does. Why? Because I'm evaluating and coming up with the lineup, right? That's what I do at practice. So I'm teaching, right? Yeah, I'm teaching, I'm trying to get players better, but everything is an evaluation. And so at least that's the way I feel it should be. And so when players say that, well, you haven't given me a shot. Yes, I have. I've watched everything you've done. And in practice, this player has practiced either better, harder, whatever it is. They've practiced in a way that gives me the confidence to put them in the lineup over you, right? And so, and some players will say, well, I'm not a practice player, coach, I'm a game player. Well, unfortunately, the way that I think most coaches determine lineups is through practice, right? And so you have to make sure your practices, and this is one thing we do, is we try to mimic the games, not every practice, right? But we want to give players opportunities in practice to display their skills in an environment that is pretty close to the game environment. Again, you don't do this every day, but that's what we try to do. And so those, again, are the competitions, right? And not just those. Every rep should be a competition, but that's what those reps are made for. That's why we're trying to make it similar to a game, right? And so that we can compare players and try to figure out who gives us the best chance on game day. So those are my tips to you if you're not getting the playing time you feel you deserve. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you later. If you've got hitters that you're looking to improve before the start of next season, this is essential for you. Matt Antonelli here, former major league player, first-round pick, and college coach. With this course, we're going to show you exactly, step-by-step, how to generate power, develop bat speed, and enhance swing mechanics. Regardless of your hitter's age, this course is going to deliver advanced hitting techniques that will allow any hitter to get better and make an impact at the plate this spring. We have a full catalog of training content that you can access from anywhere at any time. This course is perfect for players, parents, coaches, instructors, and more. It offers a comprehensive package of drills and techniques that you can directly implement. Our course has helped hitters all over the country at different competition levels, and the feedback that we've received has been outstanding. The work you put in now will drive your success at the plate this spring. Get the essential knowledge that you need to take your game to the next level.